new. Of course, you guys have already been here, and some of you guys are returning wealth builders. Some of you guys we're meeting for the first time. If that's the case, I'm Chase Sloan. I make Houston real estate easy. Welcome to Homeroom. Homeroom is when we have a chance to talk about Greater Houston real estate and what it could mean for you and your next move. The goal of this live is just to talk straight with you guys. Sometimes I believe that there's a lot of jargon out there. There's a lot of conversation that's really in between industry professionals, what we would understand. And one of the things that I really love about when we go live is that I get a chance to see you guys' questions and hopefully kind of just make things relatable. So definitely drop where you're from in the chat. Let me know what you guys like to talk about. Yet for right now, I just want to give you an update on what's happening here in Houston, Harris County, Greater Houston area, and of course the surrounding counties, which include Montgomery County, Brazoria, Fort Bend, Galveston, like I said, Harris. Houston is huge and real estate is local. So the goal of this live is really, like I said, just to keep you up to date with what's happening here. So often I'll be on like Threads or Facebook or some other social media platform, and a lot of people are talking about real estate as if it's just one big blanket, like every city is the same, that every region and state is experiencing the same market. That's not always the case. So again, hit that subscribe button. I'm Chase Sloan. I make Houston real estate easy. Let's get into it. So what our goal today is really to talk about what's changed this month, what's changed in the last week, how does this affect you, what do the numbers actually mean, and what you should check or do next. Of course, I've got my notes, and this is a real conversation. It's not scripted, it's not edited. I don't have a producer behind me. I hopped on YouTube, I press record or press go live, just to, like I said, let you know I'm a real person, real fingers, real toes. There's no AI behind this. And so, like I said, let's get into it. So what we're seeing right now, today's August 11th, is that Houston homeowners have a better chance to move right now than they did a year ago. And here's what I'm seeing. Number one, we got more inventory. So in previous markets, what that would look like is even if you own a home you desire to sell, part of the apprehension was, what if I can't find another place? What if I sell my house before I find a new house? What if I'm in between homes? And that's very real. And so a lot of people were putting off their goals of selling their home just because the market didn't convey a lot of confidence that they'd be able to find another. And what we're finding different now is that not only are home prices and mortgage rates down compared to last year, more homes are for sale and buyers are active, yet they also have more time to compare options. So here's what this means. Here's just basically, like, if we just lay it out all on the table, here's what's happening in real estate. When you have more homes for sale, more buyers have options. And as a seller, that could be more competition if you're priced out of the market. And that if is such a strong word, because homes that are priced right, staged well, in good condition, sell quick. That's just the data talking, not even me. The sellers that have the hardest challenge in this market are the ones that have priced their home way above what their comps, and when I say comps, I mean comparable homes around them are selling for, what the market price is for their home. Understand, yeah, we have more buyers in the market, yet that doesn't mean that they're going to overpay for a listing. Like I said, they have more options. And for buyers, this is a great thing. This is great news, because did you ever feel like you were pressured to make a decision, like there was a rush, like you were ready to buy a home, you were approved to buy a home, but there was only one home for sale, and it really wasn't the one that you desired? What we're seeing now is that because you have more options, number one, there's more room for negotiations, which is excellent. We're seeing wins happen on both sides, for sellers and for buyers. And keep in mind, just because the market may be stabilizing doesn't mean that it's crashing. If the market appreciated, if you've owned your home for 5 years, let's just say you bought your home prior to 2020, and you experienced once in a lifetime growth in that period, and your home value is up. I mean, I know some whose home value is up 100%, 150%, 80%. even if the market stabilizes and let's just say it comes back or it pulls back maybe 10%, you're still up, right? So when we talk about sellers really just kind of deciding what it is that they need from this market, so much of it depends on what your homes around you are selling for. You can't just name a price, right? Like if homes in your neighborhood are selling for 450,000, you can't just because you got a new roof say, well, I'm going to ask for 625 because that's how much I need for the next house that I desire. It doesn't work like that. So if you're realistic in the market, and here's what I always say, right? Because depending on who you're talking to, it's going to sound different, right? You're talking to buyers. Well, more buyers are buying, more sellers are selling, and the difference between that, I always say, well, why is it that home prices are lowering for sellers and increasing for buyers? And a lot of it has to do with perspective. If you're a buyer and you come onto the market overpriced, I mean under if you're a buyer, you come onto the market and you're unrealistic about where the market is. So for example, if the average home in Houston is selling for $425,000 and you come in and you say, well, I'm going to get that average home. That's not to say that most buyers can't find something above or below that. But let's just say that you're looking to find that median home, but you only want to pay $275. That's a mixed expectations, right? And so most buyers have not caught up to where the market realistically is, and that's why that price is going up for them, because they're already starting below. Yet for sellers, the reason why that market's coming down is because many sellers are having to adjust their expectations in how much they can command for a price. And so what we're doing is like shifting to market reality, and that's why we use data. That's why I created homeroom. That's why I created this space for us to talk about what's happening. Because let me give you guys some statistics, right? So, because I can back it up. It says Houston homes became a little bit more affordable because according to the Houston Association of Realtors, which is our realtors governing board here in Houston, 40% of Houston area households could afford the typical home during the second quarter of 2026. Last year, only 36% could. So that means that more families are able to afford homes for sale in Houston. And that is just incredible news. And here's what changed. So, number one, the Houston area home price fell to $345,000. And this is like typically you can find great new construction in that band, right? And so, of course, depending on your criteria, your location, if you're looking about resale or new construction, you may be able to find lower than that. You may be able to find above that. Yeah, the home price median fell to $345,000. The mortgage rate used in the report fell from 6.79 to 6.41. And I encourage you, instead of getting hung up on interest rates, and I understand that they're important, focus on your personal economy. What can you personally afford? And let's work that backwards. So when I say your personal economy, how much realistically are you comfortable monthly as a payment for your mortgage, for your housing? Here's the thing, interest rate is involved whether you're leasing or buying. It's just rolled into your rent. And so sometimes out of sight, out of mind, because we're not signing the papers and looking at the documents, we feel like, okay, I'm going to wait for interest rates to XYZ because it seems like a great strategy. In reality is you're already paying interest. In fact, you're probably paying 100% interest because you're not getting a return on that rent. That's not judgment, that's just numbers. And so when we talk about the interest rates, there's a little bit more breathing room. What that does, it just influences your purchase power. So if it influences your purchase power, then the X we must solve for is how much realistically do you choose or desire to spend on a home? And when I say realistically, that's really important because sometimes I'll talk to people and they'll say, well, my budget's $700. Okay, and I respect that. Realistically, that's just not the market, right? So real estate's not for everybody. It's for everybody, yet it may not be for you in this chapter. A lot of times on social media, I'll see stuff, people will be like, stop forcing people into real estate. I don't believe that's possible. Number one, it takes quite a bit to get approved for a mortgage. building your credit, building your savings, filing your taxes, filling out a loan application, looking for a home, making an offer, going through inspections, the escrow, appraisals, and closing. That's 10 steps right there. I didn't even include them all on what it takes before you actually close on a home. So nobody's making you do that. The people that buy a home have decided that they desire to own a home. And all the obstacles, all the steps, the milestones in between are just part of the process. It's part of adulting. It's part of growing up, like with anything that you desire to do in life. I know book school is back in season. Really good friends, have had children that are going off to college in Atlanta and Alabama. We've got littles going to school. It's a process to that, right? Yet if it's what you desire to do, then you just understand the process and what it's going to take for you to achieve that worthy goal. I'm squirreling, but it's life. So this is what we're talking about. Number 3, the estimated monthly payment fell from $2,650 a month to $2,550 a month. Now, this is competitive to what most leases are, especially if you're talking about inside Houston, inside the Loop, if you're talking about amenities, pools, gyms, concierge, valet. You start competing with that, right? And people will say, well, but I have more flexibility with my lease. And I've always wondered that, because if you were to move today, would you have to pay a reletting fee? Would you risk possibly having abandonment or eviction or vacancy? You just leave the house. So every decision has a cross to bear, yet I like to look at real estate through the lens of numbers, because it takes the emotion out of it. Like I said, you get to ask yourself, am I capable? Meaning, is my credit applicable? Am I working? Do I have consistent income coming in? Do I have a check? Do I have self-employed W-2? Am I bringing in consistent money monthly? Do I see myself here for the next 2 to 3 years? And I always say 2 to 3 years because, again, there are alternative strategies when you own. You can lease, you can Airbnb, you can house hack, you can stay in it, right? And you can sell it. So buying a home is not final. However, I also wouldn't look at it as temporary. We're looking at this as an opportunity to build long-term wealth. And we're going to get into that in a minute. Yet, so yeah, the estimated monthly payment fell from $2,650 to $2,550. Look at your budget. Where do you fall on that range? And if you were to choose, what would your budget ideally be? And then number 4, the income needed to afford the typical home in Houston fell from $106,000 to $102,000. And we're talking about gross. So even if you net lower than that, we are still seeing buyers buy homes. And oh, by the way, it doesn't mean that if you're not making over $106,000 that you can't buy a home. I'm just giving you guys just raw data. If you are working and you have consistent income, you have a credit score that is above, I would say 620, though we know lenders can approve you as low as 580, sometimes requires more reserves down, meaning money down. Yet I would focus on that versus just these numbers as disqualifiers. Don't use popping back on. So I'd love to know your thoughts. I'd love to know just kind of what your questions are about real estate. My goal with Homeroom is just to make real estate easy. And as a licensed real